Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for being with us every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zone as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You can find us on television on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find us on Charter, channel 182, and that's Charter Communications Spectrum. You can also find us as a podcast on the newscasters.com and on the radio, WZLA, they're the biggest country station located in South Carolina. We're proud to be part of that team too. Continue sending email. I love hearing from you. Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. Got a good friend with me right now. His name is Alan Mendenhall. And I was just telling Alan, we are about to celebrate 21 years with Donna's Edge Talk Show. So we're really excited about that. And you've been with us over half that time.
Well, yeah, your show's old enough to drink.
Yeah, it is. It won't do it. I keep it away from that. So, but anyway, it's been a good show and a good time out there on the road because I have wonderful guests. It has nothing to do with me. And Alan is one of those great guests I love having on the show. But I wanted to talk to you because a lot of folks are sending emails. They're a little upset. They're really nervous about the economy. And, gas prices are like spiraling. Or not spiraling, they're going way up. But it did come down a little bit yesterday. So we were really excited about that 10 cents that came down. So what's happening in your world?
Well, the prices are very headline contingent right now, and so are markets. So as you and I sit here and talk today, markets are up a little. But if this show were to air tomorrow, they could be down. Or, in 2 days, they could be back up. So everything's a little bit erratic because it could be as much as just a tweet or whatever you call a Truth Social post. A truth, is that what you call those? I don't even know. But if the president were to issue a truth on Truth Social, then that could make prices drop dramatically. So it's really, really fast moving right now, but it all is related to, of course, the conflict in Iran. Gas prices were at like $2.78 before this conflict. And now, as we sit here today, they're just under $4 and we're around $100 a barrel. And that was a dramatic increase. I think we're like $78 a barrel before the conflict. And of course, it has to do with the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has really exercised its control over the strait, preventing any ships to pass through. And 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas will come through the Strait of Hormuz. So it's no wonder that we're feeling all this economic pain from that. A few sort of interesting points. China, it was the charge. Well, let's see. I'll start with Venezuela because all these things are interconnected. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, but it produced basically only 1% of the world's oil because of having a socialist government. It was being mismanaged. It was under sanctions, all these things. And it was producing crude oil and unrefined oil. And we are the largest producer of oil. The United States of America, we're the world's largest producer of oil. We're a net energy exporter. We're a net petroleum exporter. We have the capacity to refine that Venezuelan oil. So there's a very new dynamic in the Western Hemisphere. Now, China was the number one buyer of both Venezuelan oil and Iranian oil. So China is feeling the impact of this closure of the Strait of Hormuz, as is everybody. But what Iran has done, because it cannot win a military conflict with the United States of America and Israel, it's had to redefine operational success in terms of the global disruption of energy markets. And so that's why its strikes, even on its Middle Eastern neighbors, are on energy sites. because it's trying to cause pain. What it's trying to do is make everybody in the world get mad at the United States and Israel because they have to pay higher gas prices, or they're trying to affect the midterms in the United States or any other elections that may be occurring in other countries that might be supporting the United States and Israel. So that's how Iran is trying to redefine what victory is for it, because it can't win a military conflict. It just cannot. And the what they've done, just bombing their neighbors in the Middle East, and that's just, to me, it's just suicide. It just shows that they hate us more than they love life. This is just what they're doing. And so yeah, we're going to see some pain at the pump. We're going to see higher prices. Hopefully we're not going to see too many spillovers into other industries, and we'll wrap this conflict up sooner rather than later. I know we're getting a lot of information from the administration today about how soon this will wrap up, and I'm hoping that is the case, that we'll be able to declare victory and get that Strait of Hormuz open so that we can have the oil and liquefied natural gas flowing through.
Well, let me ask you a question, Alan. You know how some countries like to poke at the bear? They just like to do that as far as the United States would be. Is this something that was highly calculated through Iran? I mean, is this something they just kind of look down the road and think, I know how we'll get them? It'll be with the oil.
I think they knew that they were on some oil reserves and that they were an important player in the global oil markets. I don't think that is a surprise to anyone. Maybe the fact that they have outlasted that they've lasted as long as they have is a little bit of a surprise. But I think we should have expected and did expect oil to be weaponized in this way. The Strait has been surprisingly difficult to open, and there were entire days where no vessels got through whatsoever. And it's really interesting. Now, for energy producers in the United States, it's actually can be kind of good for them, because they're now exporting oil and liquefied natural gas. Turns out we had something called the shale revolution in the United States from about 2008 to 2012. And we started fracking all these shale deposits. And fracking is not like a straight down drill. It's a horizontal drill. And we started extracting gas from the ground, cooling it to temperatures where we could liquefy it, and then bottling it and exporting it. And now we are the world's #1 exporter of liquefied natural gas. And this is the type of power that goes to heating your homes in the winter and industrial operations, that kind of thing. It's not like oil goes to putting gas in the car, to putting gas in your boat, or gas in airlines. But the liquefied natural gas is for these other forms of energy. And turns out we're actually really good at both, and we're doing well with both. We were set back a lot on the oil front by all the red tape and regulations that the Biden administration had set in place for allegedly environmental reasons. But now we should be a little bit more free to start producing energy. And I think that's all to the good. If anything, this conflict has showed us how important it is for the United States of America to be energy independent.
Oh, absolutely. So you're just bringing another question. I'm getting a lot of questions, and it's all almost the same thing. And it's about, why aren't we just tell other countries to go and just use our own reserves we have here? Because I don't know what the true number is. I've heard different numbers, but if we were just to start using everything we have here, how many years would it be before we would actually run out?
That'd be an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that question, but it would be a long time. The difference is here, we have private industries. So it's up to the corporations to decide whether they're going to start, opening a new oil rig or doing whatever to produce the oil. And right now, I think they're looking at this conflict saying, well, it's going to be really expensive for me to start up this new operation. And if I start it up and it costs me X millions of dollars to start it up, and then the conflict ends, then I kind of gambled in the wrong way. And so I think they're still taking this wait and see mode. Now, one interesting thing on the liquefied natural gas front is China actually has more extensive shale deposits than we do. and in theory, should be able to produce more liquefied natural gas than we do. But that's only in theory, because the shale deposits it has are on arid ground in remote locations that are very hard to get to, very expensive to frack. And so they can't produce liquefied natural gas the way we do, even though they have these vast shale deposits. And that's not something they can just change, because this is millions of years of sedimentary history at play. You can't just change that. You just can't change your terrain and the land. It turns out we've got a terrain and a land that are really good for producing liquefied natural gas. So we have a big advantage there. China's at a big disadvantage. China's at a big disadvantage on this oil side of things too. On Europe, Germany had decided it was going to get off nuclear power. And then in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Germany had become dependent on Russia for liquefied natural gas, which again is the stuff that heats your homes, it heats your buildings. And Germany went into a very cold winter and had a very, very tough year because it had gotten rid of nuclear power and had become reliant on Russia's LNG. But we benefited from Germany's decision, which was self-destructive, because then Germany turned to Norway and it turned to the United States to supply this energy that Germany could no longer supply. But it was a lesson that we could learn from somebody else's mistake. So we didn't have to make the mistake. We could learn from Germany's mistake. Oh, this is what happens when you basically become dependent on other countries for your energy, is if there's some type of global crisis or any sort of unexpected activity that it could be just a natural disaster, then you're stuck in a really bad place. And so back to your question, we have a lot of resources here in the United States. And if it came to it, we could start producing more. But because we're private, we have all these private companies. That's why, they're just sort of waiting for responses. It's unlike the other thing that's good about the private. That's why we had such an LNG revolution. That's why we had the shale revolution. We had companies that were nimble and could move really quickly and innovate. Whereas in China, again, they've got these state-owned giants that are just lumbering, and they haven't been able to get to the shale because they're just not quick moving the way our industry is.
Absolutely. We have to go into a commercial break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan. What's up? I made you something. Oh, thank you. And I got something for you. You grew these? Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. The past 21 years, definitely appreciate that. But it's because we have such awesome guests, and there's one right there. His name is Alan Mendenhall. Alan is also a writer, and he's a speaker. Let's talk a little bit about some of your writings.
Oh, sure. Well, I write a weekly column for 1819 News. My column comes out every Monday, although this latest one is coming out in the afternoon rather than the evening. But I do a lot of writing for a lot of different publications. I've written nine books. I guess one of those is an edited volume. Actually, two of those are edited volumes. But I wrote a novel that came out a few years ago called A Glooming Peace This Morning. And all of my writing is available on my website, which is just www.alanmendenhall.com.
Let's think a little bit more about finances. And I'll have to tell you, the only thing really that's hurting us right now is, as far as my family dwelling right here in the business, is the cost of gasoline. Basically, that's it. Because, again, we do a lot of things ourselves. We have our own garden, and so that saves a ton of money right there. But for the folks who are not doing that, they really are in a crunch right now. Because, I mean, when gas prices go up, everything else goes up as well. You got your trucking. All of those things really fit into what causes us to have issues. Or do you think we're heading on a way to a recession or to a depression, or are we going to get that far?
Well, I don't like to make predictions like that because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this conflict in Iran could wrap up tomorrow, and then everything reverses. And we were on such really strong trajectory at the beginning of 2026 when President Trump delivered his State of the Union address. The economy was extremely strong, and we were seeing records. The S&P 500 hit record. The Dow hit record. Hit the $50,000, but the 50,000 point mark, which was unheard of and unprecedented. And so the stock markets were strong. The price of gas was down. The interest rates for mortgages were down. And we were starting to rock and roll. And this Iran conflict has set the economy back a little bit. But if it is a brief conflict, if we are able to wrap it up, I think we will see those prices come back down. And again, you pinpointed it. When it's oil at issue, it is a ripple effect throughout the economy, because oil is what, causes ships to run, causes planes to fly, causes trucks to drive, and so every good that has to get from one place to another depends on gas. It's not just like, it's like go-karts or something and we're just doing for fun. This is everybody driving to work. It's literally the entire economy.
Absolutely. So what about the government shutdown? Is that adding to it as well?
This is the longest one in history. And it's funny because I got asked on a radio program as we were coming up to the very first deadline. The guy said, I want you to make a prediction, kind of like what you just said. Predict, what do you think is going to happen in this one? And I said, I don't like to make predictions. They said, well, go ahead. You're going to have to make one. I won't hold you to it. We're not gambling on air here. So, and I said, well, I suspect that they'll carve out the funding for DHS and move it aside, and they'll fund the government in every other area, and then they'll work out a deal with DHS, but it won't be anything as long as what we've seen in recent government shutdowns. Well, I was right about the first part. I was right that they were going to carve out that one area and agree to fund that later, and that they would fund the rest of the government. But I was wrong about how long it would take them to do it, because it has been dragging out. And I just was in the Atlanta airport this morning. It was not as bad as it was, on at least the way it looked on TV last week. I wasn't there last week, but I was there 2 weeks ago, and it was unreal how long the lines were. But Delta has gotten rid of its Sky Priority first class line, which is usually the best line to go in, because it's faster than TSA pre-checked, and obviously it's faster than the regular boarding process. So, it makes for longer lines, and I think people are just really restless in the airport. I mean, it's just not a fun place to be right now.
I remember Phil and I we would look for reasons to fly. Now we look for reasons to drive instead. It's just not fun like it used to be. A couple of times I actually got bumped up to first class. And so it was different, but I kept thinking about, if I were at the back of the plane in case of a crash, I'd be better off. That's
what they say. But then that plane crash last year where the guy was in the seat, like, I don't remember what the number was, but it was sort of in the front middle. So who knows?
Okay, well, let me ask you about the event that happened all over the weekend. And this is the No King protest. Now, as I was here in Abbeville, it was no big deal. I think they probably got folks out of the nursing home, though, because I saw several people in walkers. And I took pictures. I'll send it to you for proof. And 2 poor people were in wheelchairs. So, and I think there were like 15 people maybe that were there, and they were just waving at everybody. And I waved back, hey, good to see y'all. That's the way it was here. But in some areas, it wasn't quite that peaceful.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, there was an interesting Wall Street Journal op-ed over the weekend, and it wasn't the journal's position. It was an author. It was a psychologist or psychiatrist. I can't remember. And he was making this point that these No King protests serve as sort of therapy sessions, and they're being funded by several extremist organizations. Of course, Soros money is tied into it, but several extremist organizations, communist organizations, Marxist organizations are funding this. So when you see people on television rattle off the phrase, oh, these Marxists, blah, 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 a lot of people get dismissive. They're like, that's just rhetoric. They're just using strong rhetoric. Nope. In fact, we actually have communists and Marxists funding this movement. So, okay, no kings, but what do these people actually prefer? We don't have a king. We don't have a king. I did think it was really funny when the GOP retweeted Tim Walz and had this really effeminate photo of Tim Walz, and it said no queens. I thought that was a funny tweet.
But the whole point is this, and you and I have talked about this before. If President Trump were a king, then you wouldn't be able to have an event
you
like
wouldn't
this.
be out there doing a protest. Exactly. The protest. The very act of the protest undermines its own premise. So it's a self-defeating act. The act of actually carrying it out is self-undermining. So it's a strange thing, and it's a silly thing, and it looks silly. And I don't know that they're putting their best people on display either. It's just not it's going to be counterproductive. Most Americans who look at those things and see it they think they're silly, and it's like the children who never grew up, and they just look silly out there.
Well, it's kind of like you even have to wonder, are they even from here? I mean, are they being bussed in? No, we're living in Charlotte, North Carolina. Something came up. This when President Obama was president. And so it was just a simple thing. I mean, people just disagreed with something. I forgot what it was. But anyway, it was a bunch of nonsense to even have it to begin with. But anyway, one of my friends said her son was there. He was demonstrating. And she said that some buses came in and a bunch of people were getting off the buses that weren't even with them. I mean, they didn't know why they were there, but they started, and you'll hear, I think it was like about 2015 or something like that. And so people were like throwing rocks and bricks and stuff into those beautiful, and it's like a beautiful downtown part of Charlotte, North Carolina. And they were bursting out window lights and stuff like that. And so she told her son, "You better get home, or you're gonna wind up." He said, "But Mom, we're not part of that group." She said, "But you will be considered part of that group because you're there with them." So, but the initial folks who got into this group for demonstration had nothing to do with what the other people were doing. And we're seeing that. And then also, I mean, you'll see like you can tell it's orchestrated because they'll have like the same tents, the same color signs. This time, all the signs were black with white, print on it. It was just, I mean, it doesn't take that much of a brain to figure it out. It's all being orchestrated. They're mailing it to you. It's almost like when I was with GTE, we would have events. Well, of course, we had the same logos, the same tents, the same everything, but it was company wide. So you just have to wonder about that.
And it's just so funny. Trump was elected with the popular vote. He won in a landslide. This is democracy. Trump stands for populism. This is the opposite of any form of rule by some small monarchy. And what's hilarious is I heard this story about some Canadians wanting to host a No Kings protest, and they realized, oh, actually, like constitutionally, we're still subject to a king. Oh, shoot, we can't have one of these.
I know you have to laugh at it. And sometimes I do. And I look at the things on social media. Of course, you can't believe everything you see on social media anymore. There's so much garbage that comes out with that. But I'm talking about AI. If they would just they need to hire a new director over their AI, when they're sending out fake news, because it looks fake. I mean, you can, Phil could do a better job, and he doesn't have that position. But I mean, that, and there are just so many things that could be done where it would look a little more real and authentic. It just doesn't look real. Well,
what's fascinating to me is how quickly the community notes on Twitter X, will basically refute some position or discredit some video, and it happens so fast. And it makes you realize, wow, like if the lame street media, the legacy media, were really playing this gatekeeping function, they're doing it awfully slowly. Whereas, on Twitter, you get the news immediately, you get this information instantaneously, and it pretty quickly filters out what's correct from incorrect. It pretty quickly, people are able to identify what's AI and what's not.
Well, I've got to say this, just right up the road from the event here, probably less than a mile, there was a real event, and it was at a restaurant, and it was motorcycle guys. And so they were actually raising money for autism. And they had it was really huge there. I'm talking motorcycles from all over the place, and people were coming by to see them. That's what I call an event, not where you get 12 people from the nursing home to come out.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say. These people doing the No Kings protests, they're not the type of people that are tailgating at SEC football games. They're not playing golf. They're not doing these other things, which, normal people do to have this sense of camaraderie and solidarity and have fun, So for them, this is recreation. Like they're actually, this is their form of like a party, and that's just what they rally around. So it's therapeutic in that sense for them.
Maybe so. But anyway, It didn't work. I mean, the autism people, I'm pretty sure they raised a lot of money because there were a lot of folks going there. And folks were making fun, taking pictures, saying,
You're talking, I was talking about No Kings, by the way.
Yeah,
I was talking about, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But at the autism event, it was a success. Folks really did come to that. But I think people were just passing by the No Kings thing like, kind of like that. And what I saw repeated here, several folks were in Greenwood and in Greenville and in Anderson. So the question is how many of those people demonstrating were actually from those areas? Because people weren't seeing their neighbors and people they knew there. They were just seeing
strangers.
Yeah. So that's what it was. Alan, we're going to have to call it a day. Time always flies by. How can folks find your writings, by the way?
Well, they can just go to my website, www.alanmendenhall.com.
That's easy. All right. Thank you, Alan, for being with me. And thank you guys so much for being with us. Continue sending email. I love them. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com.